Hey everybody, we'll get started in just a minute. I want to tell everybody a quick little joke, but I don't have any. I feel so bad. We got another minute before we'll get started, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen. But yeah, let's see how many people we have. So just to let everybody know, I will have the chat on, but I won't actually answer any of the chat questions until a little bit later after the presentation. So think about what you want to ask. Think about some things that you'd want to know, just fitness in general, and I'll see if I can answer them. But yeah, I hope everybody's enjoying their home time somewhat. So if you are just now signing on, this is Get Moving at Home, and I'm Whitney. So we're going to start shortly. Give another couple of seconds for people to go ahead and get on. It's weird speaking to you guys through a webinar, but I'm ready for it and I'm down for it. So we're good. Many of you I know from other wellness sessions. Some of you may be tuning in for the first time, so welcome. But yeah, we'll get started. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys just so that you can go ahead and see presentation. All right, so we've all been at home for about 4 weeks now, and me being a fitness professional, that can be a little bit tough. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Whitney Pape, and I am with University Recreation. I am the fitness manager. I oversee group exercise and personal training, but I have the help of Charles Burrows and Dee Hansen, who are my two coordinators, and they really do all the hard work. But one of the things I get to do is wellness sessions with you guys, and unfortunately we can't have them in person, but technology is awesome, and so we get to actually use our cameras and our laptops and our computers. So I know it's been sort of tough for us to get moving while we're at home. Like I mentioned earlier, I am a fitness professional, and in order to keep myself motivated and moving and going, I rely on my classes that I teach, and I haven't taught any classes, so that has been a little bit challenging. So this presentation is for everybody. This isn't just if you are used to working out at the rec center or another facility in town, or if you have a personal trainer, you take group classes. This is for anybody, even if you just want to start moving. I'm hoping that a couple of things that I'll talk about today you'll be able to do throughout the rest of your life. So that's really what we want. We're in this quarantine mode right now, but it'll get better. So we're at home. It's hard. I know that everybody probably has their spaces that they like to work. I personally believe that when you are working, when you are relaxing, when you are exercising, you should have specific space designated to those things. I know it's kind of hard right now with our quarantine and having to stay at home, and we can only go to certain parts of the city. We can walk around on campus, but we have to be distant from each other. Always find a space that motivates you to be active. For me personally, I'll let y'all in on a little secret. I literally just cleaned out one of my rooms probably 30 minutes before signing on to do this webinar because I teach yoga and Pilates and I needed a space to move and my kitchen wasn't good enough. So I actually did that right before because I needed that specific space just to feel comfortable, to kind of feel in my element. Going outside is always a great thing. I know that because we are kind of stuck at home, it's hard to get outside. And so my recommendation is, try to take some time throughout the day to actually go somewhere. Not just out in your backyard all the time, but to say, I am going to go walk at this park, or I am going to go walk, fill in the blank, wherever that means for you, or I am going to go do a workout at this place or whatever. I think by changing up the scenery, it definitely helps us to put us in that right mindset. I tried to give you guys some nice springtime pictures to encourage you to go outside. And I know it's a little bit overcast today, but we have those nice days, slap on the sunscreen and go enjoy being outside, with social distancing in mind. Also, we have to think about actually setting aside time to exercise. When we have our work week and our normal routine, it's very easy to say in my calendar at lunch, I'm going to go take a TBT class at the rec center, or I'm going to go do wellness yoga at McClure Library. And we just don't have that option right now. We don't really know how long that's going to be. So I recommend using your calendar. We're in week 4 now of isolating. And so I think it's important to schedule in when you're going to work out. For some people, this works perfectly because you're a very schedule oriented person. Some of us are kind of like, I don't have to do it. And so that may not work for you. You always have to find your motivation for that. But just a couple of things on this slide just to get you thinking about how to create your mindset. And I really do think that that's what it's going to come down to moving forward. So we're going to get into more exercise, and I think that that's important. Stretching is very essential. I've done a couple of Wellvama sessions just about moving in general and stretching. We're going to talk about specifically what type of stretches you need to be doing a little bit later. We'll kind of do a little class together. I have kind of a small area, but I think that I can make it work because we're at home, and that's how we're going to do this. But I'm going to go over stretches that literally everybody can do and everybody should be doing. The internet is full of ideas. I love it. It gives me ideas as a trainer and as an instructor to think about ways to incorporate stretching, dynamic movement, functional movement into certain workouts and classes. But sometimes they don't give you the modifications, and everybody's made differently. So we have to think about where our body is today and what we need. And so we're going to kind of go with that. So stretching is essential. Raise your hand if you stretch. I cannot see you, but I think just raising your hand if you stretch is my favorite thing to do because it just feels good. And to be, oh, Brittany raised her hand. I can see that. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I miss y'all. So we'll talk about a few lots. I didn't know I could see this, y'all. I'm going to get so sidetracked. Tons of people. So that's good that I can see you guys doing that. So let's talk about stretching and why. I put this cute little kitty cat on here because cats love to stretch. Our dogs love to stretch. I didn't let mine in today because she was making too much noise. I didn't want her to pick up on the camera. But if you ever watch your animals in your house, they are always stretching. And it's kind of, it shows us that it's nature, it's the way things are, and it must feel good and their bodies must need it. So therefore, we probably need it too. On another note, stretching definitely helps to increase blood flow to our major muscle groups, but also the smaller muscle groups we don't spend that much time thinking about. It increases our ROM. So our ROM is our range of motion. And if you have ever looked at the group exercise schedule, if you have ever taken ROM with Charles or Kaylee at the rec center, that class is new. Here's my plug. It is to work on stretching, flexibility, functional movement, and it's good to supplement. So that's what ROM means, is your range of motion, your movement through the joint. We know that stressing also reduces stress. We can think about yoga. It's a huge trend right now. It's been going on since like 500 BC, so it really isn't anything new, but as Westerners, we are just now starting to do it. Those techniques are proven to reduce stress, to release tension, and to relax the parasympathetic nervous system. Reducing the risk of injury. This can be anything really. I mean, if you're not working out, you don't really have the risk of injury, but if you're outside and you're cutting grass, you're weed eating, you're hiking, you're just crossing the street and you roll your ankle and you step off the curb wrong. I do that a lot all the time. You're going to reduce getting hurt because your muscles are a lot more elastic. And then of course, it helps to reduce muscle soreness and to provide better circulation. If we sit a lot, we need circulation. We need to be pumping blood from head to toe. And let's face it, it just feels really good to stretch. Now, those of you that don't like to stretch, I'm sorry. And I really wish there was a magic potion that I could just, bippity boppity boo and, fix it. But some of us just don't like it, and that's okay too. Okay, so here's what we need to stretch. Large muscle groups. So I'm going to give you the quick and dirty, easy, this is what you should be doing. And if you have something to write with and you want to jot these down, I know this will be recorded and posted later if you need to go back, but we need to think large muscle groups. Don't worry about the little ones, like I just want to, stretch out my bicep. Think about chest muscles. Think about upper back. Think about quads, hamstrings. And if you were to Google you know, if you forget any of this and you were just to Google large muscles of the body, it's going to pull up a few. Okay. You're going to target, when you do those stretches for the large muscle groups, you are going to target those smaller muscle groups because they actually work in tandem together. They help to stabilize exercises and make the exercises actually happen more efficiently. The smaller muscle groups, I will go over a few, particularly the chest, like the upper traps, pec minor, like some of the chest muscles, shoulders, things like that. That are more like smaller. But again, if you forget those, it doesn't matter. You do the basic stretches I show you, and hopefully you'll feel a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so we have kind of a handful of ways that we can stretch. There's two ways that, yes, you need to do, and there's one way that you never, ever want to do. We're smarter now. We have science, and we know how the body works, and so we want to be mindful of our bodies and do the right thing. We have static stretching. So this is your typical stretching, which is you hold for 15 to 30 seconds, primarily yoga. Okay, so if you've ever taken a yoga class, sometimes we flow through exercises. That's more dynamic stretching, but a static stretch is when you're going to hold and you're going to breathe. 15 to 30 seconds. I don't like time too much. I just don't like that to like look at a stopwatch. So I rely on my breath, and typically it's about 5 or 6 deep breaths, maybe, depending on how deep you breathe. So those are static stretches. They're really good to do when you finish a workout and you need to relax. I don't necessarily do a lot of static stretching before I do a workout. We want to do more dynamic stretching before a workout, before you go running, before you go walking. So that's the next one, a dynamic stretch. You're going to hold it for 2 seconds, if that, and you're moving through the joint. And I'll show you a couple of those in a second when I, unshare my screen. But that prepares the body for movement. I like both static and dynamic when you are at home. Static is good when you just start to feel the stress build up and you need to go into a child's pose or downward facing dog and just center yourself and come back to your breath. Dynamic's good when you kind of have a lot of energy. I don't know if some of you are kind of like, you bounce your legs. I know Ashley does because we go to the movies together all the time. But if you kind of bounce your knee a lot, or you have that like kind of nervous energy when you're working, dynamic stretching I found has kind of helps to relieve that. So those are the two that you guys really need to focus on and do. I mean, if you pick one or the other, that's fine. At least you're moving, but I would kind of go in between those stretches. Okay, something we never want to do when we're stretching. We did this when I guess we were kids in PE class before we knew any better. Ballistic stretching, which is bouncing, is forcing ourselves into a stretch. We never want to do that. Number one, it just doesn't really feel good. And if you ever just listen to your body, there's a difference between pain and a burn of the muscle that you're engaging the muscle. We never want to feel pain. Your body will react to that and it'll actually tighten up and pull away. It won't relax into that stretch. So we never want to force. So an example of this would be like if you're touching your toes and you're bouncing as hard as you can to try to touch your toes. I think if you go and you watch like old gymnastics YouTube videos, things like that, you'll probably see maybe some gymnasts doing that back in the day, but it's just not recommended, especially for us because we're just normal people just trying to exercise. Okay, so here's some ideas of some basic stretches. We have our quads and our hamstrings. Quads are the muscles on the front of the legs. They actually engage. It kind of pulls the kneecap up and it engages when we straighten our leg, when we extend our knee. The hamstring is the muscle group in the back of the thigh, and it bends the knee backwards. So you can think of squats and lunges or types of movements that engage these muscle groups. So we'll go over those stretches in a little bit. Hip flexors. These are the muscles. As you're sitting here, if you literally just sit here and put your hands right on your hip crease, those are your hip flexors, and they are actually engaged right now. So they're totally overworked. I mean, they're made to be that way because they bring our chest down, they bring our knees up, but they are very, very overworked. Sometimes when we have a lot of mental stuff going on, when we're as like we all do probably now being isolated, we can get really tight in those hip flexors because our body kind of comes into this hiding mode, like instead of the fight mode, we're in the flight mode. We're more, I want to hide. So those can get really, really tight. Our glutes are super, super lazy. Our glutes are our turbo boost. They are the muscles, we know where they are. They're the muscles that engage when we're going upstairs and we need that extra little oomph. They extend the hips. So anytime the hip flexor is engaged, the glute is relaxed. So you can imagine if we're all sitting all day long, our hip flexors are super engaged, our glutes are super weak, and that's just in general. So I'll kind of show you some exercises to get your glutes more engaged and to strengthen those areas. Chest, we can all agree that we're on our computers. I call this the little like hunched over monster dance because we could do Thriller, but we don't want to be hunched over. We need to be open and relaxed. So it causes our chest to be tight, upper back to be overstretched. So we're going to talk about how we can stretch those things. Low back, side body, again, super tight. We all have low back problems. It's because of sitting a lot and not having proper alignment. And then when I mention side body, when we go through those exercises, you're going to notice the intercostal muscles, your QLs, which are down the side of the back that flex the spine side to side. You're going to notice that those really need to be released. Gentle twisting is great to do. I will say a little disclaimer. Once again, we never force into anything. We never force into a twist. I'm just going to tell y'all right now, it's supposed to feel kind of good. And I think we can all let ourselves think that exercising and stretching, it can feel good. Okay, so that is my little nod to you guys to say, let it feel good. We always want to incorporate breathing into our stretching. Breathing is sometimes the hardest thing to do because our minds go 90 to nothing. That's why some of us have trouble going to yoga, because while we're trying to relax and breathe, we just can't turn it off. Breathing is helpful. It does take time, and you do have to practice breathing. You do have to strengthen your diaphragm, the muscle that drops as you inhale and lifts as you exhale. But we never want to hold our breath in a stretch. We can take a full breath in and hold it at the top, but then we always want to exhale every last drop of air out. Okay, so breathing's important. And then finally, modify as needed. I mean, we're all different. If a hamstring stretch that I do is not going to work for you and your body, well, then don't do it. Find an option that works for you. So we'll go over that here shortly too. All right, everybody hanging in there? So far, so good? All right, so here's a fun little exercise. I wanted to give you something that you could do with a partner, somebody at home, a spouse, a friend, one of your kids, to hold each other accountable. It's not really a game. I was thinking about it and I was like, I should have totally made this a game, but I didn't. So sorry, y'all can make it a game and then report back. But this is a way to hold each other accountable. So sometimes it's helpful to have somebody teach you or tell you what to do, because then you don't have to think about it. That's why people come to classes. That's why people hire trainers. That's why people walk together, work out together. You need that. So those exercises that I kind of mentioned before, something that you can do is find an accountability partner. It can be through Zoom. It doesn't have to be in person if that isn't an available option, but you take turns walking each other through the stretches. And again, simple stretches, but you just say, all right, we're going to do a chest stretch. Go ahead and take your hands behind your back, open your chest, relax your shoulders. Now, as you're doing this stretch, you're going to take 4 or 5 deep breaths with me. Now, you might both laugh at each other and think, this is crazy. I'm not an instructor, but it's something really nice about having somebody put you through those exercises. So we always want to inhale on our prep. So if I'm going to do a side stretch, I want to inhale, and then I want to exhale as I release into the stretch. Okay. So that's one thing to think. If we're doing a static stretch, we can hold 15, maybe 10 seconds, depending on how you feel that day. And the dynamic stretching we already talked about, you can kind of move through that. So you guys can kind of create your own stretching routines, and you can get really creative with it. I mean, you've got those breaks during the day where you need to not think about work. Think about maybe a stretch sequence that you can teach your friend or your partner. One thing as a yoga instructor, I always like to cue is creating length in the body rather than reaching towards the ground. If any of you have ever taken Diana's yoga class, she will say there's no magic on the ground, and there isn't any magic on the ground. So because we're doing a hamstring stretch and we're reaching for our toes, getting to the ground isn't gold. It's more about using the breath and lengthening the body. So if we think about dynamic tension, we think about 2 points. So one point being my head, other point being my hips, going further away from each other. I'll show you in a bit. I know that can be a little confusing. You're like, I've never heard stretching like that before. I promise. We'll talk about it. All right, so that's a fun little exercise that you can do when you get bored and you've watched Tiger King already and you don't want to watch it again. You can go stretch. Okay, so stretching is pretty easy and fun if that's your thing. Body weight exercises. So we're going to get into kind of the workout side of things. Most of us don't have gym equipment. And if you do, then lucky you, because those of us that do not have that type of equipment in our homes are probably going crazy because we just need something to do. Now, body weight exercises are great. Again, you can find a partner to do things with. You can do them by yourself. You can let go of the expectation that I had my workout routine that I used to do at the rec center or wherever I went. Let that go and think about another option, another routine that you could do that's going to take that place. It may not be the same thing, but you can still target the muscle groups. I will say, if you guys aren't following University Recreation on Facebook or Instagram, you really should, because we are putting live classes up from our instructors that you can just jump in, and we're trying to put some stuff on social media that you guys can do at home that's no longer than 20 minutes, because we do know that time is valuable. All right, so let's talk body weight exercises. You don't need anything but yourself. You can do it outside. You can do it in your kitchen, wherever you've got some space. Body weight exercises help to strengthen muscles, increase muscular endurance, and challenge the cardiovascular system. You can get cardio by doing body weight exercises. As long as our heart rate is getting up and we can feel those things happening in our body, we're sweating, we are clearly out of breath. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the talk test, but it's when you can not comfortably talk to somebody, but you have a couple of breaths in between. As long as we can feel those things, we're challenging our hearts. Those of you who do Move Spring, you have your wearables and you're keeping track of things like that. So you can get your heart rate up. Hit workouts where you're doing intervals of time. You don't need any equipment. It definitely helps to release endorphins in the body and exert energy. Let's go back to that nervous energy that we talked about, you guys were listening, that I talked about. When we have that nervous energy, sometimes we need a quick burst of something to release and to settle our bodies. And that could be anything from you go put on your favorite band, musician, artist, whatever, and dance for a little bit in your kitchen. Or if you don't dance, do a couple of squats or lunges, something to just release that energy. That's going to help us, especially during this quarantine time, to get focused back in our work. So really keep that in mind. Of course, it reduces stress. We know everything about exercise reduces stress. And doing body weight exercises and engaging all muscle groups and incorporating these types of exercises will help us sleep better. If you have had trouble sleeping, it's probably, not saying this is the only thing, but if you haven't been exercising, it's definitely because of a lack of physical activity, especially if you were used to it. So we definitely need that, which I think we can all agree. All right, so when we do body weight exercises, we want to move and engage our large muscles. We've already heard that before, super important. Get the chest working, get the back working, get the quads working, hamstrings working, glutes, everything. We also want to maintain alignment during the duration of the exercise. More is not always better, okay? So just because we do a lot of something doesn't mean that it's super beneficial. Sometimes it can be not as beneficial and cause, obviously, injury, more stress on the body. So we want to think about making that time that we set aside everything we got within that time frame. It may only be 10 minutes, and you may say 10 minutes is all I got of me today. Well, then you make that 10 minutes it, and you do everything. Engaging the opposing muscle groups. I think sometimes when people do exercises, I'll use a push-up, for example, because there's lots of different ways to do a push-up. We know we're focusing on our chest, right? So we know we're focusing on the large muscle groups of the chest. There's a lot of other muscles involved in a push-up. In fact, the entire body is working in a push-up. It may not be working directly. The chest is the prime mover doing the movement. The triceps are the helpers, but you've got shoulders, you've got upper back, you've got glutes, hamstrings, all the core muscles. Everything is engaged to make that exercise as efficient as possible. So the next time you do push-ups, instead of just saying, I'm gonna let my arms do all the work or my chest, see if you can kick on every single muscle, even if you're in a kneeling plank position push-up. You can still engage your abs, you can still squeeze your glutes, you can still squeeze your legs together, find every little thing that you could turn on to make that exercise worth it. When I talk about engaging opposing muscle groups, when one muscle is working, the other one is stretching or relaxing. Make sure you think about that. Make sure that if I go down in a push-up and my chest is on the relax phase, because usually when you push away, that's when your chest is working, that you're squeezing your shoulder blades, that anything that can be opposing is working. And I think that will also help to make it more beneficial. We have reps, which is the amount that you do within a set. Have fun with it. Some of our trainers do something really fun called the card game, where you take a deck of cards and each suit is an exercise, and every time you flip over the card, that's how many you have to do of that exercise. Coming up with fun ideas to hold yourself accountable. Counting reps, counting sets, timing things can get a little monotonous, especially if you don't have a change of scenery. So maybe it's something as different as if you're playing a playlist that you like, every time the chorus comes on, that's your push-up phase. Every time they say a certain word, like Justin Bieber's yummy, you do burpees, something like that. Thinking about ways that you can make it fun, and I think that'll help keep us a little bit more motivated. Vigorous movement, this also goes in the weight room, so whenever we do get back to facilities, when you do vigorous movement and you continue to move through those exercises, whether it's strength or body weight, like I mentioned earlier, cardio, you're getting the heart rate up. It's not what we typically think of cardio, because we're not swimming or running, kickboxing, doing those types of things, but it is for cardiorespiratory fitness. So I think that's helpful to remember, that we can kind of knock it all out. I'm not saying it's like running a marathon, but I think you hopefully get what I mean. I've already kind of mentioned some of these, but just to kind of give you another visual, if you want to take a picture with your phone or write them down. But I think this kind of helps to map it out as we move forward, thinking about some of our movement patterns when we start to move together here shortly. Okay. So that being said, we're going to move a little bit. All right. So I'm going to unshare my screen. Give me 1 second, because who knows what could happen. Okay, I think we, 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna put up my chat just to have it up there, just in case y'all have any questions, but I won't respond to anything until after we move. So I hope that's cool with everybody. I guess I'm done sharing my screen. Who knows? All right, so I'm gonna step back a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see me. I think you're not gonna be able to really see my feet as well. In fact, I may even flip on a light to make it a little bit better. All right, so we're gonna move a little bit. So I want everybody to get up from where you are. Like I said, you're not gonna be able to see my feet, but it doesn't matter. I don't have on shoes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So let's just all move for the next few minutes together. Take your minds off of everything, focus on me, and let's just have a nice little stretching type of body weight workout. So I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose. As you inhale, sweep your arms up. If you've ever taken my classes, you know this is like the very first thing that I do. Inhale with the arms up, big stretch, lift the rib cage, and then bring it down. So I think we can all do this in some form or fashion. We can do it seated, we can do it standing, we can do it anywhere. But the reason why I like to move the arms is because I'm already bringing blood flow to the chest. When the arms lift and when the arms lower, my chest, my deltoids, pec minor, pec major, they're all starting to move a little bit, and it gets a little blood flow, especially since we've been seated so much. Now, hold your arms up. My arms are cut off, but obviously they're up in the air. Go ahead and drop one arm, I don't care which one, and come into a side bend. Now, here's what I was talking about. When you do a side bend, I'm not worried about going here. That actually creates a little bit more tightness in the other side. I want to stay lifted. So imagine that it's a nice little rainbow, and it's going up and over to the other side of the room. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, bring the arm down, bring the other arm up and over. So I want you to play around with your intercostal muscles. Take your hand to your rib cage, okay? Now as you inhale, I want you to try to expand the rib cage with your breath, and then release it down. You're gonna do that again. So I don't know if you can tell, but when you take that breath, you should sort of feel the ribs open a little bit more. If you don't feel it, that's okay, because a lot of this stuff takes practice. And right now we're just kind of learning and trying to find ways to move together. All right, let's do one more. Big reach up and over. Awesome. One more, I think, yeah. It's weird when the camera is mirroring you because you just don't really know what you're doing sometimes. All right, so big shoulder shrugs. Now, when you shrug your shoulders, I'm gonna turn to the side, squeeze the shoulder blades together and try to get right into your rhomboids. Those are the muscles that pull the shoulders together. So when we do back exercises like rows and stuff like that, we really need to engage. I really want you to pick those shoulders up. We're not going to reverse it because guess what? We do that all the time. We are going to open the chest today. So deep breath in and let it out. Just full breaths in through the nose and out. Good job. Now relax the shoulders down. Let's find really good posture. Even though this isn't technically moving, we still need to find good posture. So feet are planted. I want you to find your abdominals. So if your belly button, if you just take your thumb to your belly button and take your, I guess your pointer finger or middle finger right below, I want you to pull the abs in a little bit. It's not a suck in. I'm not like sucking my abs in. I just can feel this little pull in, okay? That is where we need to be when we're doing some strength exercises. That's where we need to be all the time so that we have some core awareness and strength, okay? All right, so let's take our hands behind us, keep that little pull in, and you can either interlace your fingers like this, okay? Or you can take your fists to your hips and open your chest. So again, we're not trying to squeeze the shoulder blades. We want to open and kind of keep the chest open across the collarbones. So take a deep breath, inhale through the nose. Think about your heart, like shine it up, send some good energy out to the world because Lord knows we need it. So just a deep breath in, chest lifts, shoulders relax, find that little core strength here so you're still pulling in. That's going to create more energy because the muscles are firing. Take one more breath and then go ahead and release it. Good. So we're going to do a little marching in place. I want you to pull your right knee into your chest, try to stay up really tall, and then you're going to set it down. Then pull your left knee in and set it down. So as you do this, remember how we talked about opposing muscles? Well, this is very important. So as you pull your knee in, you're stretching your glute. I want you to think about your other cheek squeezing to get you, balance, to get you up nice and tall. So you pull the knee and you squeeze the opposite glute. That glute needs to fire because that is what's going to give us some energy in the center of the body. It's going to make our hips feel better. It's going to take pressure off of the low back. I think it feels kind of good. Now, obviously, if the balance is a little shaky, hand on the wall and just hold. This is more of a dynamic stretch because I'm holding for 1 to 2 seconds-ish, and then I'm switching, going side to side. Okay, let's do one more. That feels good, especially if you're just sitting all day. Just jump up and do it. All right, so I got our glutes engaged. All right, I want you to open the hip and then close the hip. So imagine, I mean, you may have your dog right there and just step over and come back over just like that. This gets our hips moving. Again, if balance is not your thing, hand on the wall. Your leg does not have to come up super high. It can stay low. We just work where we are, okay? Yep, still pulling in the core. Belly is engaged. And let's do one more forward. And then release, other side. So here we go, pick it up. And then over. Speaking of dogs, mine I think has been scratching on the door, which is weird because that's so out of character, but we've been together for 4 weeks now. So she's probably wondering where I am. Anyway, all right, go ahead and keep doing a couple more. Get that glute engaged. Pick that leg up, set it down. You're going to do one more. Good job, and last time. So that should feel kind of good. Heart rate maybe up a little bit for you. We're going to go into some hip openers. So I want you to go wide with your feet, not so wide that you're doing the splits and you can't keep yourself up, but a very natural turnout, meaning I'm not going to force my toes out. It's very natural. Hands on the hips, plie, and then come back up. So there's a difference between a regular squat and a sumo or a plie squat. This is made to open the hips. Now you can focus on the inner thighs if you squeeze to come up, but you can also focus on the glutes by squeezing as you lift and lower. So I'm actually engaging my glutes to open up the hips. Your femur sits like this, and we're just trying to open it up a little bit. Yep, deep breaths. Y'all, I don't know if it's because like this room is warm, but I feel like I'm like already getting to go work out. We haven't even really done very much. Oof. We may have to have more videos together. Now hold it down for me. Just hold it down. Now we want a long spine. So if the tailbone is kicking back and our butt's kind of kicking back this way, we actually want to straighten the legs a little bit and kind of tuck the tailbone under. Glutes are engaged. This is stretching the inner thighs. We need that stretch. Anytime we're seated with our legs crossed, that gets really tight. We need to stretch. Let's come into a side stretch over. Now, as I reach my arm over, I want you to actively press that leg back. And then come back. Now think length. How far can you stretch? Awesome. And then come back in. So these are kind of some things that I like to do. This is kind of like my normal flow. When I just jump into a room and start teaching or exercising, this is what I like. So feel free to adopt this as your own. Again, Instagram, YouTube, we've got some stuff on there that we are promoting. All right, go ahead and bring it all the way up. Perfect. Now, I want you to bring your feet shoulder distance apart. So if you have a chair and I have a little stool, squats are great. Some people hate them. I mean, I wouldn't say they're my favorite thing in the world to do, but if you want to look at body weight exercises at strengthening quads, hamstrings, glutes, even calves, front of the shin, we need to be doing squats. So if you're not comfortable doing a regular squat, I always say find a chair or like a little stool, so that way if your balance is a little off that day, you can just have a seat. So what you do is you just stand right in front of your chair, you reach back as far as you can, tap, then you come all the way up. Okay, that's it. I mean, that's pretty easy. So you're going to reach the hips back as far as you can and then come up. Now, remember what I said about engaging opposing muscle groups? So as I come down, my hamstrings are eccentrically contracting, so they're going to help to lower the hips down. I want you to really engage your quads, and then as you come up, also think about the hamstrings and the glutes engaging. So they're working together. So we sit down and we come up. Let's just feel a little heat. I mean, why not? I feel like we've been quarantined for too long. So we're just doing regular old squats, back and up. Let's do 4 and up. Here's 3 and up. Here's 2. Hold it down. Let's all hold it down together. So hold it down. You're going to tap your butt and then come up. So if you don't have a chair, you're just doing little pulses. If you do have a chair, you're just tapping and coming up for 4. Yep. And 3 and 2. One more. Bring it all the way up, straighten your legs. Awesome job. So simple stuff that you can do. So that was our nice little squat tutorial, something that you can use around your house. The other prop I want to show you guys is if you don't have a yoga strap or a TheraBand or whatever, you can grab a scarf. These are very helpful when we're stretching. So if you've ever done the chest stretch, the big stretch opening the arms, we're going to kind of try it together. Obviously, I don't know if everybody's got one nearby. If you do, grab it. If not, you can do it without, just to get a little movement in the arms. So arms are out nice and wide. Shoulders are relaxed down. We're going to let our ribs actually lift. So all that means is I kind of lift my chest up a little bit, okay? Inhale, take the arms up. Just bring the arms right overhead. I don't know if y'all can hear us. I'll elevate her down. I'll come down a little bit. Arms can be up. This is a good stretch, okay? It's good shoulder mobility, and then I can come back down. All right, if you want to try all the way, you can let your arms go back behind you. I know it looks really weird, doesn't it? But crazy enough, our shoulders and our hips need to move in these directions so we can lift it up. I never want to force past this point if it hurts. It should never hurt. You should feel a stretch and then you bring it back up, okay? This is also super helpful when we do quad stretches. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. All my props in my room. I'm telling you, your house has props. So we've got some blood flow, we're a little bit warm. For a normal quad stretch, if you want to try this with me, you can take your foot up. This is an active stretch. Now notice, I didn't just bring my foot and just like let my knee kick forward. I actually tucked my tail and I focused on my foot pressing towards that back wall. My hamstrings are engaged, my glutes are engaged, my hip is getting a stretch. This is enough. Some of us may just want to stay here, okay? The other option is to grab your ankle, tuck the tail, and hold. Now, if the foot is too far away, here's where your little helpful strap or scarf comes in. You hold it here, okay? I would always do, we'll do the other side, how about that? I would always do a quad stretch, so tailbone is tucked under, knee is pressing down, flex your foot to protect the knee. I would always do quad stretches because your rectus femoris crosses the hip joint and it gets the hip flexors as well. Okay, so always do your quad stretch. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And then let it out. Good. All right, so quads, that's one of our big muscle groups. Let's go into our hip flexors. So again, you can use your chair. We're gonna do a lunge, not like a strengthening lunge, but just a nice lunge. I want you to take your back leg as far back as you can, press up on your back toe. I don't care about being low. That's not my goal here. My goal is length. So holding on to the back of the chair, front knee is bent a little bit, but I am more focused on this back leg stretching back, and I'm gonna grow tall through the crown of my head. If you'd like to add a little something, you can add the opposite arm. I'm engaging my glute, I'm strengthening, lengthening, strengthening, and I find a big reach up. So try that with a deep breath. It's gonna release your hips. Nice. And then come all the way back down. You're gonna take this same foot. We're gonna stretch the piriformis so it gets really tight. You take that same foot, you cross it over your knee, flex your foot. So don't ever let this foot just be limp. Get it flexed, all right? Go ahead and sit your hips back. You've got the chair, you've got the wall. Hold it here. Now you're gonna add something. Hold the belly in. Now sink the hips down. Deep breath. Yep. And then come all the way back up. All right, so hip flexor stretch on the other side. Reach the leg back. Keep that front knee bent, stretching through, not going low, right? We want to reach through that back leg. We can add the opposite arm up and take a deep breath in. If you pick any stretch to do, I would always go hip flexor stretch. If you had one stretch to do, personally, I would do a hip flexor stretch. Deep breath. Good. And then come all the way back down. Now we take our foot across, piriformis stretch, flex it, send the hips back like you're doing your squat, like you're sitting in a chair, holding here, deep breath. Yeah, good. And then go ahead and bring it all the way up. So we stretch our quads, we stretch our hip flexors, our piriformis, and our glutes, hamstring stretch. So let me show you what I like to do for my hamstring stretch. Everybody good? Give me a hand raise. Let me see if I can see it. Just so I'm not like, everybody okay? Okay, good. All right. I love that. Okay, so here we go for our hamstring stretch. I am flexible because I do yoga, but I don't always stretch my hamstrings by just reaching down and touching my toes, because sometimes I get a better stretch with my leg elevated. So here's what I'm talking about. Put your foot up on something, okay? Again, there ain't no magic on the floor, okay? Toe is lifted, leg is pretty straight. A slight bend in the knee. It's not going to be locked out. Those of you that are like hypermobile and have double joints, don't lock out your joint. You have to almost work a little harder to feel the stretch. So flex your foot, hands on the hips. You're going to hinge from your hips. So as you hinge forward, I want you to imagine that there's a string tied to your shirt and it's tied right there to your big toe. And as you hinge forward, it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Find a spot where you're like, oh, I can't. And the spot where you're not rounding. We want a long spine on this one. And the reason we want a long spine is because we're focusing on the hamstring, okay? Originates up here, inserts here. Some of us are super tight in the back of the knee. Some of us are tight in the upper hamstring. Most of us are tight back here. We want to focus here. If we were to round the spine, we're then going to stretch in the back. We just want the hamstring right now. So that's what we're doing. So hands can rest on the thigh. We never press into the knee joint. We just don't do that. And then you pull your heart forward and you take a deep breath. Okay? Go ahead and come up. We're going to do the other side. So foot comes on your chair. You can do it on the floor. And if you do it on the floor, this is what it's going to look like. Toe is up, hips kick back. Okay? So here we go. One thing I did forget to mention, your hips need to be square. So you got your hip bones here. They need to square right here to your foot. Some of us will turn out and we go like this. We're still getting a hamstring stretch. We're just not in as good of alignment as we could be in. So let's pop it here and let's bring the heart forward and let's take a deep breath and just relax the shoulders and feel that nice stretch. Ooh. Oh man, these hamstrings, I tell you what. One more breath in and let's come all the way up. So we got our quads, hip flexors, hamstrings, piriformis. Let's get into the low back to stretch out, okay? Cat-cows are perfect. You can do them on your hands and knees like we do in yoga, or you can just do it standing, and I'll show you what that looks like standing. So hands come to your knees. You want to internally rotate here. If you go out, it just doesn't feel right. So my hands are actually internally rotated here. You're going to pull your belly button. Instead of thinking arching your back, I want you to think of pulling your belly button up. So pretend like someone's got their finger poking you in the belly button and it's awfully uncomfortable. So you're going to pull it up and release the head. You're also thinking about tucking the tailbone under to find that stretch in the low back. And then when we come into cow, we lift the tailbone. We're not just like twerking. I mean, I hate to say it that way. It's a dynamic stretch to where we pull the heart forward and we lift the tailbone up and we relax the shoulders. I mean, we feel the stretch in the front of the body. And then we do it again. Cat-cow brings mobility to the spine. It also helps to connect with our breathing. It's just, I mean, all around good. So do that a couple more times. Yeah. Good. Do one more. I'm going to check my time because when I get to teaching, I can just kind of, keep going. So go ahead and finish up your cat-cow and go ahead and come up. So that's a good way to release the back. Now, one other little exercise, not really exercise, more of a stretch I want to show you guys, is a roll down. Now, if you have high blood pressure, if you know you or low blood pressure and you get kind of dizzy, just be mindful as you move. This is a Pilates exercise. It's simple to do, but sometimes going up and down can get us a little bit crazy in the head. So I'm actually going to show you from the side. So here's what a roll down is. This feels really on the low back, but once again, if you've got some low back issues, be mindful as you move, okay? All right, so the chin tucks to the chest. Watch me first, and then we'll do it together. Chin tucks to the chest, shoulders roll down. I'm finding my cat. I'm tucking. I'm pulling my belly button up. I'm softening my knees, and I'm coming into my kind of ragdoll position. Now, when I reverse it up to get the traction in your spine, you have to bend your knees, okay? You then tuck your tail. So think about your tailbone tucking like a cat, pulling your abs in, and then very slowly stacking back up, okay? So it's not just I'm going to roll down and roll up. It is combining a cat and that tail tuck. That will give you that release in your back. Let's do it again. So chin comes to chest, round your shoulders, pull your belly up towards the sky, round all the way down, release your head. Hang here for a moment, kind of shake the head out, yes and no. Now bend your knees, get heavy in your legs, pick the belly up, restack the spine, tuck the tail, and come up. So if you get dizzy, you just hold on and you're okay. All right, so those are some exercises, some stretches that I personally like to do for myself. Always keep in mind larger muscle groups. Now for bodyweight exercises, just to kind of go over a few, and then I'll go through some Q&A if y'all have any questions. Squats we already went over, super good. Lunges are great. Lunges are not great for everybody, especially if you're lacking a little in flexibility, or if you've had any type of knee replacement, hip replacement, kind of depends on those types of limitations. But if you're going to do a lunge, I prefer to step forward rather than step back, because I can see where I'm going forward. And sometimes when you step back, it puts too much weight on that back leg. A lunge mimics reaching down to pick something up. So there's a little bit of the knee going past the ankle. That's a healthy movement. It doesn't have to stay stacked back like this in a lunge. There actually needs to be some flexion of the ankle. So a simple lunge, again, you can hold on to the wall. Sometimes I just do it just because I just want to knock out a few lunges. Drop the knee and then come up. Drop the knee and then come up. Okay, so pretty easy. Push-ups, I'm not sure if y'all can see me when I get down, but one thing I want to go over is when you do your push-ups, I don't do full push-ups. I like modified push-ups because I have better form alignment, and I'm not afraid to say it. We want to make sure that, if y'all can see, that my hips aren't down, but they're actually lifted when I do the push-up. That you almost have a pretty flat back. Flat isn't super realistic because we got some curves and we've got some bumps, and that's okay. And everybody's spines can have a little bit of difference, if you know what I mean. So what you have to be aware of is once you've engaged your abs, it'll immediately make your plank feel stronger. So if you feel weak in the midsection when you're doing a plank or a push-up, that is your cue to go, okay, I need to pull in and up. It's that same exercise I did where I said take your thumb to your belly, take your finger below, and lift up and in a little bit. It'll change your posture even too. Okay? Okay. Whew. I'm burning up. My fan's not high enough. So I'm gonna go and see if anybody has any questions. Let's see. Is everybody feeling like their heart rate's up a little bit, like they did something rather than just sitting around all day? Oh goodness, we're gonna get through this together. Well, let's see. Anybody have any burning questions or any ideas that they want to try? Or does anybody want to share anything that they're doing currently that I can read to the group? Because sometimes it helps to kind of, you know, talk through some of this stuff. Now, some of you have asked about that have had to leave. It is being recorded, so we will post it, or I won't post it, but Carolyn or Ashley will post this. And like I mentioned before, if you have social media, Instagram, Facebook, follow University Recreation, because our instructors are doing live classes from their Instagram and Facebook pages that we are promoting. And then we also have posts on our IGTV, I guess, page of like a stretching tutorial with me that's very similar to this. I do a quick vinyasa yoga flow that's going to be posted. Charles has a range of motion. I don't know if y'all have seen his big rock workout. Brittany says Pop Sugar has great videos too. Oh, and Jazzercise is also offering 60 days free. That's what's up, actually. If you've got some back issues, so thinking about those that have like slip disc, and depending on, you know, where the disc is slipped, I would always get confirmation from your doctor that you can move. Any of these exercises that we did today, specifically cat-cow, anything that you can do in a plank position with a supported core is going to be super helpful, because what those exercises do is they help to strengthen the fascia in the low back, and it actually elongates the spine and it releases pressure. So always having your core engaged and finding that lift of the belly is going to do a lot for you. Let's see. I know I miss everybody at the rec too, but yeah, if you go to Oh, good. Some Instagram followers. That's awesome. If you want to look at some of this stuff that the rec is putting out, go to their social media pages, University Recreation. I'm not really sure. I think this will be posted on the wellness page. I guess you could email them about that. Yes, Carolyn says yes. Down Dog app is free for a few months. Oh, and they have some good beginner yoga. And Carolyn says this will be on the webinar page as well. So yeah, I think you guys are set. And if you like this and you want to try to do something like this again, I'm not sure what wellness schedule looks like, but we could always do just a class. So, you know, things that would help us get through this time. So yeah. Well, that being said, thank y'all, and hopefully I'll see you again on here, and y'all just take care and hang in there, support each other, do some Zoom workouts, and I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.